Hello out there, all you wonderful people. This is Andre, the Game Idea Guy. Thank you once again for listening into another Gamer's Thoughts discussion. And this time I'm going to be talking about the Mass Effect Trilogy and how I feel about it overall, how much I enjoyed it in the long run. And this is just kind of like a precursor to a couple other things. I do have another couple Mass Effect videos that I'm going to be working on. One is going to be going over Andromeda and the differences between Andromeda and the main trilogy, some discrepancies I noticed and things of that nature, but we'll get to that when I get there. I have to beat Andromeda first. Okay, so overall for the trilogy, the first Mass Effect game, I think it had the best item system out of the three. With changing up the different armors and the different upgrades and things that you could have for your weapons, I think that the first game actually had the best overall system for that. Now, the second game, in my opinion, was the best as far as gameplay is concerned. Like, it was the most, I can't say it was the most fluid, but it felt better than the first game. And there are some times where the controls in the second game feel superior to that of the third. Now, as far as the third game goes, it is the most emotionally impactful game in the trilogy. It is the heaviest emotional impact that you can have out of all three of the games. So each one of the games has their own strength. And some of the story paths do branch from the first game all the way into the third, like even some of the minor ones. Some characters you learn things about that you would have never have known had you not played the first game, because little bits of information that would be there aren't there later on, because you have to actually play through certain scenarios in order for these things to actually, come about. And it's the same for the second game. Like, from the first to the second to the third, like, there are just certain moments that you will not find unless you play through each and every one of these games. But in the long run, like, the trilogy is enjoyable. But, like, and I do hope that if EA is actually remastering it, that they give everyone the whole trilogy, the complete thing, with all of the downloadable content that was in the games. You don't necessarily need it, but having it allows you, again, more story branches. And there's no reason they shouldn't be able to give that to people. But that's all I'm going to say about that. Now, given that brief analysis of the three different games, the first game, it starts off a little slow, and I do like that you could land on different planets and have little missions on all those separate individual planets. And that was something that was missing from Mass Effect 2 and 3. You didn't have the opportunity to just land on different planets and then just have an assortment of missions while you were there that you could take care of. That was definitely something missing from those. I do understand why that happened with Mass Effect 2, like where you're using the system of pods and things, sending pods down to planets to gather minerals and, sometimes pick up information and things like that. I get that was just more efficient, because while having the planets to travel on was nice, it isn't always the most proficient way to do things, and sometimes it could get tedious depending on what you were trying to do. I nonetheless enjoyed being able to land on the planets and explore them, and just find out what would, like, take care of missions on them on foot. Now, having both would have been optimal. Being able to land on the planets and having the probe system would have been great. Like, you can use the probe system to just, mine for minerals and things for armors, weapons, and upgrades. Or you could also land on the planet and just, explore it. That would have been great if they could have incorporated that in the second game that way, but they couldn't. And I think it was mostly just due to time constraints, honestly. I think they just didn't have enough time to try to implement that type of system, so they said, okay, we're going to focus on the story and a few different worlds that you can have some missions on, and we're going to go ahead and put our energy into that. And they still did a great job, no matter what. Either way, they had done a wonderful job. So, moving on to the third game, you are not mining for resources necessarily. When you're exploring different planets and worlds, you're still using the probe system, but at this point you're just using it to find whatever you can find wherever you are, and you scan different space and areas to make sure there's something viable for you to find, and that also brings the Reapers. So there's a lot to consider there. But getting on into it, like once you get down to the third game and you get to that area where you're toward the end of the game, and this is where I understand why so many people get irritated. And the extended cut does give you a fourth option where you can just refuse to do what it asks you to do at the end, and it just gives you a fourth ending. Where you can like refuse to make any of the three choices, and it gives you a fourth ending. People grew attached to Shepard. Like, if you're playing the game from start to finish, like you're playing the series from start to finish, you get highly attached to your character. You get attached to the world. You get attached to the other characters in the game, the ones that you can save and the ones that you can't. You become engrossed in it. And I understand why, when this game originally launched, why so many people were irritated. Well, when the third game launched, why so many people were irritated. And the extended cut does help with some of that. It does help with wrapping some things up, and it extends the ending, making it not so brief. But when you come down to the choices of control, synthesis, and destroy, you don't want to destroy all of the synthetic life, but that's the only option that gives Shepard even a relevant chance of surviving. And at that point, you also have to have your effective military strength high, very high. And that's not total military strength. Total military strength is by default half of your effective military strength is by is by default half of your total military strength. Now, there are, back then with Mass Effect 3, you had to play on multiplayer online in order to boost your effective military strength. There is also a website for anybody who wants to play back through the game now, that you have to log into your EA account, and it will do the extra missions for you, like where you can just like send like teams off to take care of those missions, and it will actually boost your effective military strength while you're playing. So that's, if anybody's interested, I'll try to remember where that link is, and I'll put it down in the description for anybody who may be trying to play back through Mass Effect 3. I know it works for PlayStation 3, the PS3, and the 360 version of the game. I'm not certain about the Wii U version. So, just giving a heads up, I think it does work for it, though. That's it. Oh, and it also covers the PC version, before I forget. But that said, where you would come down to the option of control, I can kind of understand. And again, this is a spoilers, I'm sorry. I can understand where Shepard becomes part of the Reapers, and his physical body dies, so he basically becomes the mind of the Reapers and controls them. I fully get why that would be necessary. But when it comes down to the synthesis ending, where you choose to pick the middle route and Shepard's body becomes part of everything, it makes you wonder if Shepard's body becomes part of, he throws his DNA into there, and it allows synthetics and organics to become one and the same, basically, and they understand each other, and they basically, as I said, part of the world becomes, part of the organics becomes synthetic, and part of the synthetics becomes organic in a way. Why is there not some way that Shepard's body could be remade? It's odd as it sounds, like he was already rebuilt in Mass Effect 2. So you would think there would be an option with that, like, which would make everyone be a part of each other. That at that point, okay, well, hey, let's have Shepard reappear later on. I think that when people had that option, they probably chose it. Like, that's the literal best option for the galaxy, but I can't save my character at all. Which the control option is very similar, because at that point Shepard's taking control of the Reapers, so he knows what they're doing, and he can protect everyone by controlling them while giving up his body. But then you have the option where he has to give up his body for everybody to be able to be independent too. So it's like, well, that sucks. And then you have the other option of blow all synthetics up, and then there's a very slim chance that Shepard would live, and you would see that at the end of the ending, like right before credits rolled. But then you don't see what happens with Shepard. Like, and I understand, yeah, maybe leaving it up to chance for everybody to understand, but there's no way that they show all these events that take place after what will obviously be when Shepard wakes up. Because he had to have woken up before all this other stuff in the ending happens. So again, like, there's a lot that's left open to desire for the player. And it's just like, I get why so many people were upset. Because again, you got attached to this player. You basically became this character. Yeah, they might have been voice acted and everything, but you were this character. You were making the decisions for him or her. You were that person. In that iteration of the Mass Effect Milky Way, you were that character. And it's just like, well, sucks. You either die or you kill off all intelligent artificial life. There, either one. Or, and even with that ending, you still had the chance. Like, that ending, you were more likely to die. So all of the options above, like even the fourth ending, everyone dies. So every option is available to you is like the death of Shepard, and then the death of many others in one way or another. And if your effective military strength was low, goodness, like, so much got destroyed. So it's, again, there weren't many options that were a good outcome. There were okay outcomes, but there wasn't really a good outcome to the story. Even if you chose to be Paragon the whole way through, and maybe just a few renegade actions. I know that's kind of how my Shepard went. I was Paragon most of the way, but sometimes when I felt the situation needed it, did a renegade action. But it just, like, again, leaves a lot to be desired for the player. And it's just like, okay, I get there's a wrap up to the story. And some people were definitely prepared to see Shepard die. Some of them were definitely very prepared to see this character that they rolled through this completely tragic event. They were expecting to see him die. But many others were looking for that, I did it all, I took care of everything, I saved everyone, and I came out on top. That ending does not exist. That ending does not exist at all in the Mass Effect trilogy. And that's what pissed so many people off, because I know there were a lot of people that probably went the route of saying, okay, hey, I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that everyone I can save survives. There are going to be some casualties along the way that can't be helped, but I'm going to do everything I can to make sure everyone that I want to survive survives. And it's just like, well, you don't get that option. And and I sympathize with that, because there's no good option. There's no completely good option. There are decent options, but no good option for the end of this trilogy. And I can definitely sympathize with people that were playing the games as they came out, that originally played them straight through. I can fully understand why that's upsetting. It makes a crap ton of sense as to why that is extremely upsetting to people. But I don't want to drag it on too much, so I'm going to end that there. But it's just one of those things where the perspective makes a lot of sense when you think it out and you sit down and say, oh, I see, I understand. But thank you guys very much for listening. Keep your eyes and ears up for more stuff from me. And until the next time, enjoy your games and peace out.